We're recording now?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can go ahead and just talk a little bit.
All right. I'm being interviewed by my granddaughter, Margaret Dameron, part of my family, and she's a really special person, special woman. Going to try and give her a few insights into what framed my life, what I'm about. I think it's an honor that she decided she wanted to interview me. Mark Twain said, there are two very important days in a person's life, the day they're born and the day they figure out why. I have two more that framed my life. October 4th, 1957 was important to me because I was a high school senior that day. It was a Friday, October 4th, and the Russians launched Sputnik into space. And we heard about it. Like I said, I was a senior in high school. We couldn't wait for our lunch hour, ran out of class, ran out to the quad, and somebody in my group had one of those small little plastic AM FM radios that were so popular. They're probably a collector's item today. And anyway, we tuned it to an FM station, and they were broadcasting the fact that the Russians had launched a satellite into space. And we sat there and we listened, and we were enthralled, and we talked about it. And I made a curious decision. I decided I was going to spend the rest of my life in space. I was extremely lucky, been blessed by God in many ways, one of which was I was able to work on every manned space program this country worked on until the day I retired in 1996. A lot of it was luck. I went to work for Condor International in San Diego, California, as a college student, part-time summer hire. They extended me and gave me a full-time job when school started with the idea that I would go to classes and then work at night. I worked from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight, raced home, got some sleep, got up early, went to college. At Convair, we won a contract early on that they were going to put a space capsule, the Mercury capsule, with the 7 original astronauts, which I was lucky enough to meet as they toured through our facility. I was privileged to work on another program that put the Gemini capsule on an Atlas missile. And then I transferred, got another job in Los Angeles working for North American Aviation, and we won the Apollo program to put the Apollo capsule on the moon. And as I progressed through my Rockwell experience, working there for them for 35 years, I was promoted and got to work on projects on the early designs of the space station, which was the Next Big Man project, and the space shuttle, which was our workhorse of putting things into space for years. So those, coupled with the day that I decided that I was going to spend the rest of my life with this young girl I met in high school. We've been happily married 60 years, last June 18th, and she'd be proud of me. I remembered the day. So that's kind of my work history. You're in my office and you're looking at the things that have always interested me. You're looking at some of my eagles on the wall. You're looking at some of my books. Baseball's been my love. There are pictures on the wall of some of the baseball players that I admired watching, namely Nolan Ryan and Mickey Mantle. I have a signed Mickey Mantle plaque on the wall there that I was lucky enough to acquire. I've always admired eagles. They are amongst the most remarkable animals in the animal world. Mate for life, have incredible strength, incredible eyesight. To to be admired. They are the symbol of our national country, our national bird, picked out by founding fathers, people who I have great admiration for and great respect. My name is Antonio John Formaggio. Everybody calls me Tony. In fact, Tony G, because the last name is so long. It was very difficult to learn how to spell when I was a kid, but as you get older, you get proud of your heritage. And the meaning, the name has meaning. It's Giovanni Formage, and that's shortened to John Formaggio, John the cheesemaker. The Antonio is it's a family tradition that my dad broke. The oldest son is supposed to be named after his grandfather. My dad was named after his grandfather. My name was supposed to be Joseph, but my dad decided to break the chain, and so I became Antonio the second. My oldest son was Antonio the third, and his son, who's going to Huntington Beach High School right now, he's Antonio the fourth. So we've got a little bit of a legacy going. I had 4 children, 2 sons, 2 daughters. One of my daughters is married to a man named Gary Elkins. My other daughter is married to Tracy Dameron, and Tracy's Margaret's dad. And so that's kind of how that part of my family got started. Told you I had 4 children. We have 13 grandchildren by birth, and 2 more from one of my son's second marriage. So we feel like we have 15 grandkids, which I know is a lot for a non-Mormon, but we enjoy everybody. And when pre-COVID, we were able to get together. It was fun. I apologize to you for my beard and my long hair. They're also remnants of COVID. Don't get to the barber as often as I'd like to. In fact, to be honest with you, Margaret's mom cuts my hair, and we've been kind of busy lately, so we haven't got to it, but that's on tap for this week. Well, I think I led off with this. My most defining memories are meeting my wife at a high school basketball game, being lucky enough to get out on that patio and listen to the excitement of Sputnik being launched, and just having one of those aha moments where you say to yourself, this is what I want to do. And it was kind of hard to frame, being a 17-year-old boy at the time. I wasn't very experienced, and I really didn't know what it meant. It was just a long-term goal. But I find that long-term goals are very helpful. They give your life some direction, and when you get through the difficulties of every day, going to college is tough for you kids. Almost all of you are working. I, by the way, worked. It took me a long time to finish my college degree. I worked 40 hours a week, and we eventually had 4 children while I was doing it. So it was a long, slow process, but it ended up really being worth it. I graduated at 27 years old, which I'm not proud of, but trust me, you're going to someday look back on that and realize how young that is. So I envy you and all the excitement you have, looking forward to the world and how it's going to change, realizing that when I started in engineering, working on space programs, we did not have computers. We did everything with slide rules. We looked up tables and reference books. We calculated equations. We ran them with pencil and pen, and yet we were able to accomplish an inordinate amount of great technological feats. Today, with the advent of computers, and more importantly, the transfer of information almost instantaneously, what every one of you, I'm sure, has in an iPhone in your possession on your desk is more computing power than we had in the first shuttle launch we made. That computer was powered by 5 GPCs, general purpose computers. The reason we had 5 was we didn't trust the results of any one of them, so the computers voted. They all worked some of the trajectory problems independently. We then compared the answers, and 3 out of 5 was what it took to give us an answer we were relatively confident in. Laptops sitting on people's desk or what you're working on in school are again an incredible tool. You can reach out through the internet, through search engines like Google and the others, and pull up information that at one time would have been the envy of scholars. Throughout history, people that had information had value. People that were able to learn from information had wisdom. And those who valued the wisdom and the knowledge and were able to apply it with some degree of fairness became rulers and determined the course of our history. Their knowledge was learned through long, hard hours of study. Yours is learned through hours of research. Hopefully you'll extend that as you get further into your education and apply analysis and reasoning and try and extract from all the data that's at your fingertips wisdom. Do I have any regrets? I'd say no. You learn from your mistakes. So to the extent I have any experience or knowledge, it's based to a great degree, I have to admit, on mistakes. Famous people like Thomas Edison, when he was given credit for inventing the light bulb, he tried to diminish all of that credit by saying that he'd had 900 and something failures. And he said those weren't really failures. They were just lessons along the way to finding out what wouldn't work. So I don't really want to call anything I've done that didn't turn out well a regret. As I said, all of it led to where I am today. The mistakes, the successes, the attempts, they all form the mosaic of your experience and your history, and which you have to look back on. So no regrets, only great memories. Most difficult decision I had to make was early on in my engineering experience. The company that I worked for, General Dynamics in San Diego, was suffering some downturn, lack of contracts. And my wife and I were born in San Diego, raised there in San Diego. Our beginning college and family friends were there. All of my family lived there. All of my wife's family lived there. And I had to decide to move us to keep working. Had one child when we moved, and my wife was soon going to be pregnant with our second. So we really agonized over leaving our comfort zone, but turned out it was great. I am a Christian. It means the world to us. The more I studied science, the more I was involved, and the more I studied my religion, I found that the two dovetailed. One is not restrictive of the other. Both hold answers, and both have a really important place in our family. I feel sorry for those people that have neither. If you don't have an education and you don't have religion and you don't have a family foundation, you're kind of floundering. And it's always led to an inner peace for my wife and I. Our religion early on was that of Catholic. We both went to Catholic schools. And later on in life, we were exposed to some other ideas, namely the Bible-based Christian faith, which we've become much more involved in over the last 20 years of our life. And I guess it's just the fundamental idea that you have comfort in realizing that you're a part of something bigger and that you're a part of something that's enduring and that there's some reason for us being here. As I said to you before when I first started talking, Mark Twain's remarks about the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you figure out why. Well, religion's going to help you do that. So I'll tell you one thing. I know it's a joke and it's been repeated often. The old joke about if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. That's really true. The one thing I guess I do have a slight regret was that I never was able to weave in protection for my body as well as protection for my family and my brain. I exercised caution in those two areas and extreme care as much as I could, but I wasn't as active as I probably should have been. Today's emphasis by young people on exercise, bicycles, walking, swimming, just exercise in general is really worthwhile. Keep your mind and your body as fine-tuned as you can. I used to say it was the desert. I loved the American Southwest, the desert. But we were introduced, 10, 15 years ago to Hawaii. And there's something magical about a warm night with those tropical breezes and just the lushness of the vegetation and the clean air. It's just fabulous there in Hawaii. It's a real paradise. I'd have to say right now it's Hawaii. I would hope to be described to a stranger as an honest, caring person who tried to make this place better than what he found it and tried to be as nice as he could be to everybody he met, try to be non-judgmental, I really try to be empathetic and put myself in other people's shoes, and I'd like to be remembered as somebody that cared about other people and his planet. And well, my mantra has always been God, family, country, and I'd kind of like to be remembered for somebody that cared about those three things utmost and other people in general. I've always felt that if I don't infringe on anybody else's rights and give them every chance that I was given, then I will have been as fair as I could be. Love needs to be, I don't know if it is for a lot of people, but it needs to be more than physical. I know that the physical attraction is what alerts our brain when we first meet somebody as to whether we think we're going to like them or not. I'm talking in terms of love, not just friendship. But love has to grow. Love has to, it can be very small in the beginning and kind of amorphous and not well defined. But once you learn to put other people, their desires and their requirements ahead of yours, you're going to be successful in the areas of love. If you find somebody that you want to share your life with, truly share it. Don't expect more than you give in the relationship. In fact, my dad's advice when I was talking to him about wanting to ask my now wife to be my wife was, he said, think of marriage as a 60-40 proposition. You give 60% and expect 40 and you'll be fine. And that's my advice to all these young people today is don't expect that the person you're going to be in love with is going to satisfy all your needs. Expect to satisfy as many of theirs as you can and you'll be fine. The 23 of us in the family, the direct family, and how well they're doing and I think will do in the future, that's what I feel is my accomplishment. That's what I'm really happy about. Things come and go, houses, cars, TV sets, they get outmoded, discarded, which you think is fabulous. Piece of equipment gets updated and superseded, but family is what's enduring. Those relationships are what will carry on and will actually be your memory. The efforts that you do to help your family succeed will outlive anything else you do. I envy you and the bright future you guys have ahead of you, and it's a future, by the way, that you make. Don't look to others and lament that you weren't born tall enough, you weren't born strong enough, you weren't born handsome enough or beautiful enough or rich enough. Margaret knows our beginnings in our family. I'm descendant of 4 immigrants. Two of my grandparents were born in Italy. The other 2 were born in Mexico. My mom and dad, I guess my mom was lucky enough to finish high school. My dad didn't get past the 7th grade when the Depression hit and he was put to work. So I find myself incredibly lucky that I didn't realize it at the time, but my parents really sacrificed to send me to a private high school. Work hard. It's all going to pay off. It may not pay off immediately, but effort extended over time is what leads to success. Don't take any individual little failures or difficulties as something that's going to stop you. As I said earlier, long-term goals are what's going to frame your life and what's going to lead to success, not short-term disappointments. They're going to happen. If you think you're going to live your whole life with nothing ever being an obstacle, no problems ever occurring, you're in for a rude awakening. Champions are made not by never being knocked down, but by never being kept down. They get up, straighten themselves off, and they move forward. And that's what you've got to do in life. Whatever little setbacks you have, the fact that you weren't able to go to class as much as you wanted to, or your high school senior year was stolen from you by COVID because you had to do distance learning. Chalk that up to something that 50 years from now you're going to tell your grandkids with a smile on your face. Because when I was a young engineer getting my first assignments that required any kind of supervision, I had people working for me. I remember one time we were working some really long hours early in the Apollo program. We were working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but at the time it was what was necessary to meet the stated goals of our country to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade, which was the 60s. That I started in engineering before air conditioning. So when we worked on an August night and it was 105 that day, and we were inside buildings with corrugated metal roofs, metal walls, no windows that opened easily. So it was hot and miserable and long hours. And I told the guys, someday you're going to look back on this and this is going to be the good old days. And they all laughed, and I thought about it often. It turned out exactly that. If you were to gather that bunch of guys and talk to them about their experience, they'd all talk about it fondly and with great memories and nostalgia. But at the time, it was tough and it was hard. And you're going through that right now. So don't give up. Don't quit. Keep the long-term goal in mind of what you want to be 10 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now. And if you focus on that, all the little stuff doesn't amount to anything.
That was very good.
Yeah, you're welcome, honey.